Welcome to Rivalries. Today I'm joined by Jim Dolan. He's a West Ham fan. He's also the founder of Pride of Irons, who are the club's official LGBT plus supporters group. Jim, it's great to have you on.
Thanks for having me. I mean, I wish I could be talking about football under better circumstances, but here we are.
That's pretty much my entire life as an Aston Villa fan. So we're in the same boat there, I think, with Villa and West Ham. But with West Ham, I guess things were looking great last year. Europa League semi-finals, pushing for Europe in the Premier League itself. But now you're fighting relegation. So first of all, what's going on at West Ham this season?
Do you know what? It's hard to know for sure, but it feels to me like it's a combination of things. I think we had a very sort of shallow but tightly knit squad that was overperforming. It was, pushing themselves every single week, going above and beyond, and maybe kind of riding off the adrenaline a little bit and off of the cumulative success. But that can only run for so long, and I think we saw that towards the end of last season. Because you're right, although we got to the Europa League semi-final, which was great, you noticed that the league form really did start to drop off. So the downward trend isn't just this season thing. It's been going on for longer. So I think the signs are already there. I think they tried to address it by investing in the squad, but I think what that has shown is actually David Moyes is better with a smaller squad. He's better with a challenge in front of him. He's better at motivating a small group of tightly knit players. But once they've reached burnout, you can't push that any further. And now we've got these new players, and he's just not integrating them for whatever reason. They're just not knitting. And he's now started to return to the sort of trusted few from last season, but I don't think that's particularly working well either, because I guess some of those players' noses are probably put out of joint a little bit about the fact that, we were basically looking to replace them, or at least sideline them. And they're not getting any younger either. Bringing on when your sort of second choice left back is Aaron Cresswell, and he's brilliant, but he's what, 30, is it 32, 33? I don't know, he's getting a bit older now. And he's still a fantastic player, but you can't expect him to be running up and down the wing. And you can expect some great dead balls from him, but if he's up top, taking a free kick and the ball doesn't fall for us, he's gonna have to peg it back. So it's all, I just feel like there's a big cumulative effect of small squad, burnout, trying to bring new players, can't integrate them, and it's just been a bit of a downward spiral since. Right.
And the last two games you beat Nottingham Forest at home last time 4-0. So I did wonder, is this finally West Ham getting out of this rut they've been in? Then you follow it up a week later by going away to Brighton and also getting battered 4-0. So consistently inconsistent there, I think. Aston Villa next, obviously at home. How do you feel about that game?
I mean, to be honest, I'm kind of dreading every game at the moment. I mean, I was under no illusions with the Forest game, because I've never seen a team that bad, perform until I saw us play Brighton a week later. So I didn't see it as a turning point. To be honest, I just feel like Moyes he's run out of options, and I'm not looking forward to it. It's not even that I fear, Villa. It's that I feel like at the moment we can't beat anyone aside from a very, very poor Forest, who I can't believe aren't at the bottom fight. Well, I suppose they will be now. They'll probably be near the bottom with us, but I think at the time they were maybe 12th, 13th. But I just feel like we're out of clues, out of motivation, out of ideas and tactics.
Okay, and with West Ham's form at the moment, who are your key players at present?
Good question.
Right,
I don't know.
Wow.
I think okay, it's a bit unfair. I mean, Rice is a great player, but you can even tell with him, he's usually the kind of player who's sort of like sort of clapping his hands and trying to get the crowd up. But at the moment, his shoulders are sloped, his head's down. Doesn't stop him being a great player, but I think the frustrations are creeping in. Aguerd from the Moroccan centre back we've got is fantastic, but he can't hold a defence together himself. And up front, I just feel like, aside from sort of Bowen every now and then popping up and doing something good, Antonio's lost his form. Scamacca, I don't know what's going on with him. He's disappeared. It's really hard. I just think everyone's so demotivated. I just don't know who I'm looking to raise their game.
It's quite amazing because I look at West Ham last season, and you've beaten Villa. I think it's 5 times in a row. You seem to have a real hoodoo over us, and it feels like you have done for a long time whenever we play away at West Ham. But you kept kind of like physically overpowering us, is what I noticed. I think Villa, if you were to criticise them in the last couple of seasons, you say we were quite weak in the middle. That's been rectified somewhat under Unai Emery, though it's still a bit of an issue, I would say. But West Ham were like Souček and Rice and Antonio up front. You were just physically, it just felt like we couldn't quite compete at times. And then you got the new signings in Paqueta, I think it was, Scamacca. I mean, it's sort of mind-bending to see kind of the form you're in now, really. And, players like Paqueta and Scamacca, they just haven't really done anything at present under Moyes.
So, I mean, to be fair, Scamacca's had some injuries, but I don't know what's going on there. I know there's this whole thing about his agent dropping him around trust issues. So I honestly don't know if he's another crazy temperamental Italian that we've ended up with. Only time will tell. Right. I think Paqueta had to find his feet a little bit. He came from Lyon. I think, it's that typical thing. Player comes from Europe, is used to playing in a certain way, is used to a certain level of protection that he's not going to get here. So he was a bit lightweight. He was throwing himself to the floor a little bit too much. He's being integrated a lot more now, and I'm seeing glimpses of the player that we all thought we were getting. Okay. And it's one of those frustrating ones, where he'll go to make some cheeky little move, some really tight through ball that doesn't quite make it, and you're like, okay, you're finding the measure of the league, and when those balls start to slip through, we're all going to be salivating.
Yeah,
he's getting better. He's just not quite there yet. But on the physicality, definitely, Antonio is an absolute beast. But what he's lost is his shooting boots, which, to be fair, he didn't have for many, many years. And when he found them, we were like, hallelujah. I think Souček, the one thing that's changed recently, which I'm quite enjoying, is 2 seasons ago, Souček was the one pushing forward, and Rice was playing the more defensive holding role. And he was getting a lot of goals, Souček. I think last season, Rice's star was rising, and I don't know if there were any sort of demands or conversations had behind the scenes, but clearly something had changed because he was coming forward a lot more, and Souček was staying back, and he makes these really amazing marauding runs. You can't put the guy down for it, but purely statistically speaking, it's much more effective having Souček up front. So Moyes has been doing more of that recently, and you can see the impact that he's having. And I hope that he sticks with that, and we start to, capitalise on more of Souček's physicality up front.
Yeah, he was a bloody pain to play against Souček. It just felt, I think he's played against Villa a few times and scored headers at the back post. Just felt like any time I watched West Ham, he'd score a header or he'd come close to it. So it's interesting that element has changed. And also Rice, I just think he's an absolutely brilliant player. I've seen a few pundits in the last week, talking about needing more goals, though I don't really think that's his role necessarily. Some say, he should go elsewhere. How do you feel about Declan Rice as a player and potentially his future as well?
I think he's a fantastic player.
Yeah.
I think he's one of those where every team who gets a good player, especially a good homegrown player, wants to hype them up, and everyone else wants to put you down because they want you. You're over egging it. It's because he's one of your own. I think one of the things about being a West Ham player, possibly supporter, and possibly yourself for Villa as well, is we know where we are, right, in the standing of the world. We're not amongst the more sort of delusional fans. So when we say that we have a player who is world class, it's not hyperbole. He is a fantastic player, and such is his standing amongst West Ham fans. I think we've all pretty much resigned ourselves to the fact that he's going to go, and that's not this year, right? We resigned ourselves to that fact 2 years ago, maybe 3. But we knew he had a long contract. We knew we had him for a while. And I don't know what he's on, but I know it's not a huge amount when you compare it to a lot of the players in our squad, let alone across the league. And we have offered him buckets of money to sign an extension, and he hasn't taken it. So I think at least we all seem to know that it's not about that. You know, if he leaves, it's probably because he knows he's good and he wants to go on to do bigger and better things. It's not just about the paycheck. But yeah, he is fantastic. Sadly, he's not going to achieve his potential with us. And any West Ham fan who says otherwise is lying to themselves. So yeah, I think the inevitable is that he probably will go this summer, because I think after this summer he's got 2 years left on his contract, or 1 year and 1 year option to extend. So there's no point after that, sort of stringing it out really.
This sounds very familiar to when Jack Grealish was at Villa. It was the same thing. It was that kind of, people think you're being hyperbolic, but then when I used to watch him even in the Championship, I was like, this kid is absolutely unbelievable. Like, he just is.
Yeah.
Like, and lo and behold, he's off to Man City, which I'm still bitter about. But I'm getting over it now. But you did sign an Aston Villa player in the January transfer window, Danny Ings, for 15 million quid. Scored his first 2 goals against Nottingham Forest recently. What have you made of him? And do you think he should play more?
Definitely think he should play more. I think one of the things that people have said is he's not as physical as Antonio, but I think it's pretty difficult for anyone to be as physical as Antonio.
Yeah, right.
But I think what I perhaps lazily thought when he came to us was I was expecting more of a poacher than kind of a gritty, rough and ready, get stuck in centre forward. And I was wrong, and I've been wrong many times, which I love. I was wrong when we signed Jesse Lingard. I was wrong. I can't remember. There's a few players where we've been like, no, we don't need them, and I've been completely wrong. And I'm happy when it works out. I'm wrong this way. It's great. He's getting stuck in. He's getting stuck in with the build-up play. He's not just waiting to be fed service. He looks like he's really trying and he's really up for the fight. And I think that's probably the benefit of bringing him in. Like I said earlier, I feel like there's a lot of loss of motivation in our squad. So having someone who's coming in immediately wants to fight, immediately, sort of getting stuck in is really positive. And I definitely would like to see more of him. Gutted that obviously he was cup tied for the game we had against Man U last week. Because I think, with a finisher, we might have actually ended up winning that game. We had so many opportunities. We should have been 3-0 up at one point. It was just because Antonio was wasteful in front of goal or just made the wrong decisions that we ended up, with 1 goal hanging on for ages, and the inevitable happened, right? And then after that, collapse. But we were all saying, we wish Ings could have started.
Yeah. Well, it was an interesting one at Villa as well. It just felt like him and Watkins never quite were able to balance themselves out as in the front line. Villa have won 4 out of 5 off the top of my head away games under Unai Emery. Our away form is much stronger than our home form. Most recently beat Everton away. How do you, what do you expect from Villa this weekend? And what's your score prediction as well for the game?
It's hard to even think about it, if I'm completely honest. What do I expect? I expect that we will do what we've done a lot recently and, play defensively and try not to concede, which will end up with us conceding. I think that's. Okay. I just feel like we don't go for it enough. I feel like, you can kind of see why, because when we do break forward, we leave gaps. We are tactically naive at the back. I don't want to slag off one of our own, but Ben Johnson is not a fullback. He's been found out so many times recently. We're really, really weak at the back. And then, like I say, that you concede one, and it just all seems to crumble from there. Right. I think to benefit you guys, like you say, you've got good away form. I think also on your side is that the West Ham fans are really starting to have enough now. You're hearing the disgruntlement in the stadium, you're hearing sort of the boos and stuff, and it's only going to get worse. So the more pressure that comes on our boys at home, unfortunately, it's that self-perpetuating thing of, we're not helping the players by doing that, and we're probably making it worse. But you can't blame people either for being unhappy. So I do expect, to be honest, every game I expect to lose at the moment. So I do expect that we will be resoundingly beaten, actually.
Okay, wow. Well, I'll try and keep your hopes up. Villa just lost Boubacar Kamara to an injury. He's going to be out for about a month, and he's a fantastic centre midfielder. Really, really good signing we've made. And I think that he solved a lot of the issues we had in centre midfield. So without him there, now we're potentially going to have Leander Dendoncker or Callum Chambers, who are not really close to his level, to be honest. They're the most likely like-for-like replacements. So I think in centre midfield with Rice and Souček, if you go that way, we could be in for a few problems, I think, in that zone. If we can't quite fit the Kamara hole. And then also, Villa, we've lost 5 in a row to West Ham. We haven't beaten you since 2015 when the world was a very different place. So does that give you any more hope at all?
Do you know what? I just feel like, no, it doesn't, because
okay.
West Ham have got this amazing ability that doesn't benefit us in the slightest. We're really good at helping other people break records.
Right.
So off the top of my head, when Torres went to Chelsea and he hadn't scored in, I don't know how many matches, and when they played us, we're like, don't worry, West Ham will take care of that for you. And lo and behold, he scored his first goal for Chelsea.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. Whenever there's a record to be broken that doesn't benefit us, it tends to happen.
Know the feeling, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have much hope. Look, I mean, I'm going to go anyway. Yeah. You can't give up. There's always got to be a tiny shred of hope, but I'm just not optimistic.
Okay, well, that's the Villa West Ham game covered. But you also are a co-founder of Pride of Irons. On this podcast we've interviewed before Villa and Proud, who are an LGBTQ+ supporters group for Aston Villa. Pride of Irons do the same function essentially for West Ham. Can you tell me what motivated you to found Pride of Irons?
So it was back in, oh God, how long ago? It was 8 or 9 years ago now. I can't remember, 2013, 14. Essentially, it was just like a homophobic thing that happened at a game. So I was there with my boyfriend, who's now my husband, Pete. Hello, Pete. You're not going to watch this, but hello anyway. We were at the game. I had some of my friends with me, and this guy just started. He was obviously drunk, right? And he was shouting some really, I'm not going to say because I don't know what your swearing policy is here, but it was really horrible language. It wasn't just slurs. It was spiteful. It was like, referring to the AIDS crisis and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So it's really, really nasty. And I didn't do anything. Didn't say anything. Any other aspect of my life, any other place, it would have been different. But because it was football, and it's that thing of, if I say anything, is it going to make it worse? Are other people going to pile on? You'd like to think people would be like, yeah, shut up. But at the time, it was years ago. There wasn't really much talk of LGBT issues in football. So, I didn't do anything, sort of kind of looked at my husband, he looked at me. Clearly, it got to us. And it's really weird when that kind of thing happens. When you're watching football and your peripheral vision kind of disappears, right? Everything is in front of you and you are completely absorbed. But when something like that happens, it's like a snap. You're out of the game, and you can't really ignore it. Yeah. My friends who were with me looked a bit awkward as well. Eventually, the guy said something racist, and people sort of piled on and told him to shut up, and got stewards involved and all the rest of it. But it didn't sit right with me that I hadn't done anything. So yeah, I mean, it kind of started from there. Then I sort of reached out on Twitter, said anyone else kind of feel like we need some kind of group, and then it just started with 10 people, maybe 10, 15 people, and now I think we've got over 400 members. So it's been a journey. We've gone from a place of it started in a bad place of a bad incident, but actually now we're really heavily involved in the club's equality, diversity, inclusion work. We sort of attend sort of pride events and stuff each year. We've got a supportive community for our members. And also we've been doing things like working with Kick It Out on a restorative justice education program. So where people have been convicted of homophobic abuse at football and they have banning orders, we will sit down with them and kick it out and kind of talk through stuff. It's not like a judgy, preachy, trying to make people feel bad kind of thing. It's more, look, let's have a conversation between us as football fans and see how we feel at the end of it. and it's been sort of yielding really positive results. So yeah, to go from something that was a one horrible event to hopefully making a difference in the wider game, it's definitely been a bit of a journey.
Yeah, it's nice to hear that it's had such a positive impact ultimately, and gives people a space to be open and express themselves, I guess, at football matches. So if people want to take part in Pride of Irons or join it, where can they find you online?
If you Google us, we're at Pride of Irons on Twitter and at Pride of Irons LGBT, I think, on Instagram for some reason. But yeah, you can find us on all the social media sites. But yeah, we're a friendly bunch. It's not a gays only club. I think it's one of the things that people don't sometimes realise is there's people from all over our community. We've got there's a lot of gay men, obviously, because football the men's game does have a lot of you look at the participation in stadiums, it is predominantly men. Yeah. But 25% of our members are female. We've got lesbians, bisexual people, trans people, but also 25% of our membership is straight cis allies. So we're a really inclusive bunch. The only criteria really is that you support West Ham and you want other people to support West Ham without feeling uncomfortable or experiencing anything any hatred around their identity. That's about it.
Brilliant. Well, I wish all the best to Pride of Irons, and I also wish the best to West Ham this season, though not this weekend, of course.
Of course.
I do wish you well. Jim, it was absolutely lovely to meet you. Fascinating chat, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me on, and take care. Come on, you Irons!